So for our first topic today, we'll be talking about the rare breed trigger interview with James Reeves. So, rare breed president Lawrence DeMonico and attorney Josiah Conterno sat down with James Reeves to discuss the recent rare breed trigger settlement, and I kind of wanted to discuss this a little bit and talk about how it came off, at least to me personally, and a little bit of the sentiment that's been showing up in the comment section. Now, it seems like this might be a little bit of a PR push for rare breed triggers now that they're finally free and clear to actually begin selling their forced reset triggers again. But the interview is interesting. First and foremost, I really should say that I do have to give rare breed triggers and the guys over there a lot of credit for fighting this particular legal battle. I can't imagine it was easy. It definitely was not inexpensive, nor was it something that was straightforward. There were multiple moving parts, and honestly, parts that I personally am not completely aware of or can keep track of entirely. But I do want to say that dealing with the government's dirty tricks is something that I would not wish on rare breed triggers, no matter what you think of them at the end of the day. Honestly, my main problem with the settlement is the number of questions and things that it leaves up in the air. Honestly, they could have pushed this forward further and gotten more binding precedent. I've previously discussed Matt's video on the Fudbusters channel that has much more depth and detail in terms of the actual elements and portions of it, so I would recommend that you check out that particular video if you are interested. But one of the main things that I'm personally interested in is the very real possibility that prior art could invalidate rare breed triggers patent. And every single action that they take, which is to defend their patent, which is something that they're pretty much having to do as part of this settlement agreement, exposes that patent to potentially being invalidated. And I would very much like to hear from people what happens to this settlement if one of its main pillars is nullified. I mean, is this something that the settlement still stands? Does it invalidate the entire settlement? Does this give the government potential future administrations wiggle room to get out of this particular settlement with rare breed triggers and pull a Darth Vader saying, I am changing the terms of the deal. Pray I do not change it further. There are just a lot of unanswered questions here, and I really do feel like this particular case stopped short of reachable goalposts. Now, don't get me wrong. I will take wins where I can get them. And this is probably a good thing for the vast majority of states in terms of how this is going to affect the treatment of forced reset triggers in the future. But as far as I am aware, this stops at the district court level. So correct me if I'm wrong, but that's not binding precedent across all of the districts. So it feels like, yes, we got a win here as a collective firearms community, but not the win we might have been able to get. Another thing that I found interesting in the discussion here was the definition between handguns versus pistols and forced reset triggers. This bit where they're saying that there should be no manufacture of FRTs for pistols, specifically defining them as, or excuse me, handguns, not pistols, but handguns, and specifically defining handguns as firearms where the magazine is inserted into the grip feels like wordplay. It feels like they're trying to do some backdoor control where they might get a lot of pushback if they did it through the normal routes, such as ATF definitions. And throwing it here into this settlement feels like kind of an underhanded way to get additional control past us in what looks like a win. Correct me if I'm wrong. Other minds are more than welcome to differ with me on this, but that is something that I'm seeing, and I am wondering, why is that language in there and part of this settlement? Furthermore, on the issue of handguns and forced reset triggers, Lawrence DeMonico, I believe it was in the video, specifically said that they were unsafe. He does realize that machine pistols have been around for quite a while. Now, granted, those would be inherently NFA items for a lot of them because of the forward grip that they normally come with to make them more controllable, but machine pistols have been around for quite a while, and I find it kind of weird that he's making this argument that, oh, they're more dangerous than other firearms. Firearms are inherently dangerous. It's just stuck out to me as kind of a weird argument to make in this particular video. But hey, again, I'm mixed. On the one hand, rare breed triggers did definitely fight the good fight in court for a very long time, but on the other hand, it feels like they were 1 yard to making a touchdown and decided to just stop. So, I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on the rare breed trigger situation? I know rare breed has garnered a lot of blowback and negative PR from their patent lawsuits and other moves that they've taken to defend their patent rights. So I'm curious to see what you guys think of this particular interview in general. Me, I'm mixed. Again, I'm more than happy to have sympathy for the difficulty and the fight that they went through, but again, on the other hand, it feels like they gave up just before reaching that touchdown. But that wraps up this particular section. Let's move on to our next topic.